She began unpacking, carefully placing her belongings in the cupboard. Roshni was a slender girl with a determined gaze that belied her quiet demeanor. Her dusky complexion bore the sun-kissed glow of someone who had grown up under the open skies of rural Chhattisgarh. Her hair, dark as midnight, was usually tied back in a simple braid, a practical choice for someone who was always on the move. She had inherited her father's strong will and her mother's compassionate heart. Her dream was not just her own. It was a shared aspiration of her family, who saw in her the promise of a better future. With each step she took on the hallowed grounds of St. Catherine's, Roshni carried with her the hopes and dreams of her village, determined to make the most of this opportunity. It wasn't long before the door swung open and Natasha entered, her vibrant presence filling the room instantly. "Hi, you must be Roshni," Natasha said with a wide smile. "I'm Natasha. Looks like we're roommates." Natasha is Roshni, roommates. Her skin was porcelain fair, with a natural blush that made her cheeks glow. Soft brown curls framed her round face, and her large, expressive eyes sparkled with curiosity and mischief. She hailed from Ambikapur, a lively town nestled among the sal forests of Chhattisgarh. The daughter of two respected doctors, Natasha had grown up in a home filled with loves, compassion, and conversation. Her confidence wasn't loud, it was calm, polished, and utterly contagious. Roshni returned the smile, feeling a bit of her nervousness ebb away. "Yes, I'm Roshni. Nice to meet you." Natasha looked around the room for a moment, her cheerful expression flickering with a hint of confusion. Her eyes lingered on the number plate outside the door before she turned back to Roshni. "I had something to ask, but I completely forgot. You know, I'm talkative once I start talking. I just don't stop. When I saw the number 13 on door, I remembered. Why was we allotted room number 13? Earlier it was 5, right? When I went to the warden's office to ask, there was a nurse there. She said the warden ma'am had gone to school for some important work and that she would talk to me after returning. So I thought I'd come here, maybe some new roommates have already arrived." Roshni paused, straightening the corner of her bedsheet as a memory flashed in her mind, her own surprise just minutes ago. She looked up at Natasha and nodded slowly. "Yes, one thought the same. I was told I'd be in room 5 too. In fact, we had already paid for it during admission. My father double-checked everything." Natasha sat on the edge of the second bed, her duffel bag sliding down to the floor. "Then how come you're here? Is this some kind of mistake?" Roshni reached into her small file pouch and pulled out the folded slip of hostel allotment, still bearing room 5 written in neat block letters. She held it out for Natasha to see. "I showed this to Miss Matthew just a while ago. She said room 5 isn't fit to live in right now. Some damage, damp walls, broken wiring, maybe rats, too." Natasha wrinkled her nose. "EWW. Roshni smiled faintly and continued. "So she shifted us here instead. She said room 13 is usually reserved for temporary students or midterm entries, but since it's unoccupied and relatively clean, she offered it at a lower price." Her fingers lingered on the metal keyring still resting on the bedside table. "Actually," she said, "the amount I paid for 1 year now covers almost 2. Natasha's brows lifted, the earlier worry now replaced with cautious surprise. "Really? So basically, we're getting a 2-year room at a 1-year fee?" Roshni gave a small nod. "Pretty much." There was a pause, that kind of silence that stretches between two strangers who know they're about to become friends. Outside the window, the rustle of trees swayed in rhythm with the stillness inside. Natasha stood up, walked over to the cupboard, and opened it slowly. The hinges let out a soft creak. "I guess it's not a bad deal," she muttered. "Though, room 13 has a weird reputation back in my town. My dadi used to say never to stay in number 13. She turned, smirking. "You superstitious?" Roshni chuckled lightly, though her stomach twisted slightly. "No, not really," she said, though her eyes flicked once more to the number on the door. As if on cue, the late afternoon sun dipped behind a passing cloud, casting a shadow across the floor. Natasha, too preoccupied with unpacking, didn't notice. But Roshni felt it, a gentle shift in the air, like a breath that wasn't hers brushing the back of her neck. She turned away from the door and focused on arranging her books, shaking off the feeling. After all, it was just a room. Just walls and windows. And yet, somewhere deep inside her chest, a whisper of unease had already begun to stir. As they chatted, the door opened again, and Sikha stepped in, her eyes taking in the room with a quiet curiosity. "Hello," she greeted softly. "I'm Sikha. I guess we're all going to be sharing this space." Roshni and Natasha welcomed her warmly. Sikha, Roshni's third roommate, was a quiet yet observant girl from a village nestled in the hills. Her olive skin and dark curls framed a face that often wore a thoughtful expression. Sikha's reserved nature hid a keen intellect and a love for books, a trait that immediately endeared her to Roshni, who shared her passion for learning. While Sikha preferred the company of books to large gatherings, she found solace in the friendship of Natasha and Roshni, who welcomed her into their circle with open arms. No sooner had she placed her bag down near the third bed than her sharp eyes darted toward the door. Catching sight of the metal number plate outside, she paused, frowning slightly. "Room 13? She asked, her voice soft but certain. "Weren't we supposed to be in room 5? That's what the list said when I checked at home." Roshni and Natasha glanced at each other, and then both burst into quiet laughter. Roshni waved her hand as if brushing away invisible confusion. Yes. You're not imagining it, we were all supposed to be in room 5. I thought the same when one arrived." Natasha chimed in with a mock dramatic tone. But fate had other plans, and Miss Matthew had a maintenance excuse. Roshni giggled and explained everything to Sikha, from her conversation with Miss Matthew to the reason behind the sudden shift, and how room 13, despite its airy number, was given at a discounted rate, enough to cover 2 years' stay. Sikha listened, her head tilted thoughtfully. Then, unexpectedly, a small smile played on her lips. "Well, 13 is a prime number. Unpredictable, mysterious. I think I like it already." Natasha rolled her eyes playfully. "Only you would find something intellectual in room numbers." They all laughed.